It's 4 o'clock on a Tuesday, and how the hell are you? Welcome to Taxi's Quarantini Happy Hour. Oh, that was one of the sloppier intros I've done lately, right? Welcome to the big show. Let's say hello to the folks in the chat room. And for those of you who don't know, the Quarantini Happy Hour is just a hangout that we do while we're still locked down from the coronavirus. Tuesdays, Thursdays, 4 o'clock, right here on this channel. We just hang out, we talk about music, we talk about life, we talk about the weather, we talk about the virus. It's a nice hang. Anyway, let me say hello to everybody. We've got Jesse J. Peck, Ewart Williams, Bob Gunnerfeld, Dan Weber, Marion Laird, Christoph Scott, Ian Shortle, Chris Anderson, Andre Stepanian, John Pearson, Buffalo Bob, Dan Weber, Christoph Scott, did I say that already? Lamar Pecorino. Let's see. Darren Moss was in there earlier. Where the hell did Darren go? Anyway, good to see you back, Darren Moss. Noticed you were gone there for a couple of days. Got worried. Excuse me. Thought maybe that was unsightly. Thought maybe you were stricken with the COVID. God forbid. Anyway, good to see you guys. It has been brought to my attention. Hello, Cass. Hello, Paul. Up late tonight. Jesse J. Peck. Man, Jesse, is it windy down there in San Diego? Oh, no, you're not in San Diego. What the hell am I thinking? Who's in San Diego? No. Somebody's in San Diego. Peter's in San Diego. Man, it is so windy. It is the windiest day I've ever seen here where I live. It's literally so windy that there have been a couple times today where it felt like the house is going to get lifted off its foundation. And we don't have any windows open. Oh my gosh, is it windy out there? I have no idea. I mean, I am not exaggerating. I should look and see what the wind is on my phone, but it's got to be like 50, 60 knots. Usual winds are coming everywhere. Unusual winds. Okay. Yeah, no, we don't have a pool. The rain is on its way, a couple of weeks worth. Yay! I just got a nasty letter from DWP telling me that we're going over our water ration. It's because one of our daughters was home. I take long showers, she takes longer showers. So that's good. We can turn off the sprinklers for a couple of weeks and just let the rain do its thing. Knock down my pond tent that protects my koi. Wow. Where do you live, Riney? You had a few raindrops today. Wow. When Deb and I woke up this morning, it looked like it was going to rain, but now it's clear as a bell outside, some high wispy clouds, and just unbelievable wind. Lower Anderson, I love it. Seattle area, wow. Does it ever get cold enough to like freeze the pond where you have like frozen fish? I wouldn't want to see that happen because you know how I love fish. Anyway, okay, so yeah, I've been told by member services and my wife that they've gotten 4 or 5 emails already today from people who aren't understanding the current listing that went out, I believe, today, looking for Stomp Clap, I think. We get a fair number of requests for that, and so we've tried to stay a little bit on top of the market. When we see a particular genre starting to trend, we will run a compilation now, a listing asking for submissions. Generally, we don't use references. In this one, we did because we thought not a lot of people knew what Stomp Clap was. And just like what we played yesterday on the show, that was for a compilation, right? Anyway, we're doing another compilation for Stomp Clap. We put together these compilations. We'll get somewhere between like 100, 200 submissions. We don't have any set number that we put on there. It tends to be like 12 to 20-ish, kind of in that range. We hold the bar really high because the purpose is that we send it out to probably 2 to 3 dozen of our most active clients that we work with, that we know will pay attention. If we send out kind of an unsolicited thing to them saying, hey, we found a bunch of really great stomp clap, they might go, oh, I could use stomp clap. And virtually everything that goes out on those compilations ends up getting a deal from one library or another. Sometimes they get 2 or 3 offers. So I want to make sure that everybody understands that. We're back to talking about geography. So I have a question. I want you to know that I spent an hour today that I shouldn't have spent because I was supposed to be... Andrei Stepanian is going to be our passenger profile for the upcoming newsletter, and I've been trying so hard. Saturday night, I was going to write the questions for the interview. Didn't get to it. Why? Because I was playing with Logic and spent 3 or 4 hours, just pissed away my Saturday night having fun with that. And then today, I was going to work on the questions so that I could surprise Andrei in today's show and go, hey, Andrei, how about after the show, I hit you up on Zoom and we do an interview? And I was working on the questions, and then I remembered, oh yeah, yesterday I told them that I was going to play that song that we recorded in the ballroom during the rally several years ago, my little mix. And I was trying so hard to get Logic, which is on the same computer I'm talking to you from now, get Logic out to the Roadcaster. I tried Bluetoothing it, I tried USBing it, I tried using little mini plugs, excuse me, and it's like I could get Logic to play into the Roadcaster, but then I couldn't listen on headphones to what was coming out of the computer. So after screwing up my audio path everywhere, I mean, literally, I just undid everything I've done in the past. I had the audio working pretty darn well recently, so I plugged everything back in, thought I had it all good, and decided I actually had a stroke of genius. I did bounce a rough mix the other night, just because I wanted to, bounce one to my desktop just to get that experience. And unfortunately, I just shoved up the faders. I wasn't doing any moves. I wasn't doing any mutes, bringing anything in or out. And so I've got something I'll play for you, but unfortunately from screwing up my audio path, I ended up loading it into one of the sound effects pads on the Roadcaster. But playing it back now, I hear that little tunnely effect that we were all hearing when I first got the Roadcaster. So I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I claim to be an audio guy, but I'm not really. I just fake it well. It does have headphones out, but there was a reason why I couldn't use it, and I can't remember now. Yeah, it does. I can't remember. I went through so many combinations or permutations, whatever you call it, trying to figure it out. It was so frustrating. Anyway, but I will play you this. I mean, it's a pretty bad mix. So I'll start with the list of excuses, which you guys should never do to me, but I can do to you because I have the Roadcaster, the camera, and the microphone. It was pulling teeth. Seriously, I'm reasonably good. On a scale of 1 to 10, I'm about an 8 as far as audio path, signal flow kind of stuff. I'm reasonably good at figuring it out, but not with the Roadcaster, not today. So anyway, here's how it went. Several years ago, it was either 3 or 4 years ago, I think I know that Shirelli and his folks were doing a thing in the 200-seat theater every year at the Road Rally. And I said, Rob, I would love to put you on the main stage. So many of our members who are just kind of strummy acoustic guitar, singer-songwriter types don't really have the production thing down yet. They don't understand the process of laying in different parts, in being judicious in what they put on tape or what they, take out of the mix. So can you do a thing live on stage called Demo to Done? And he said, yeah, I'll do it, but I want to do it really right. Rob is definitely a perfectionist. Rob is really a perfectionist. So I said, no problem, man. I'll run a listing and get some taxi members to send in, acoustic guitar, singer-songwriting stuff. And then you can pick one you like and use that as the basis for what you're going to do on stage. And he goes, well, it's got to be somebody that lives near us. And I said, why? And he said, because I'm going to want to meet with them and go over some stuff. So Rob did all these rehearsals for what they were going to do on stage, blah, blah, blah. Had a whole team of people working on this thing. Not just, he had Nate and Kaylee playing many of the instruments. He had his assistant engineer there. And he had them at these meetings, but he said, it's got to be somebody, I need them, if I call them today and say, I need you over here tomorrow afternoon at 4:00, I need them. And I said, well, come on, that's unreasonable. He goes, well, then let's not do it. And I said, no, we got to do it. Come on. So about a year or two before that, my family and I were at the Shirelli's house for New Year's Eve, which we often do. Either they come here, we go there. That year we were there. Rob's got his control room. He's got a 3-car garage. He took one of the bays and turned it into his mix room that he does a lot of. Now he's doing all of his work from there, actually. And so, we walk in, we have our pizza and salad and hang out, hugs all the way around. He's got kids about the ages of my kids. And so the kids were all catching up with how they liked high school, blah, blah, blah. The night wore on, and at one point, Rob says to my daughter, Hannah, who at the time was like 15, 16 years old probably, so, Hannah, what are you up to? You write any songs? And she goes, yeah, sadly, somebody that Hannah knew from school, I believe, very sadly, somebody she knew fairly well had committed suicide because of some sort of online shaming thing. It was one of those sad stories. And Hannah was very much affected by it. And at some point, about 3 months later, if I'm remembering the timeline right, she wrote a song called Suicide. It was I don't know what you call it, an anthem to somebody who committed suicide, but it was an acoustic guitar thing. So Rob says, what are you doing? So she grabs an acoustic guitar out in the garage and starts to play it. And he goes, let's put this on tape. And she goes, nah, she was coming down with the flu. Why she even went to their house, I don't know. And she goes, I feel sick. I don't want to do it. And he goes, come on. He actually said, come on, don't be a pussy. So my son-in-law, Hayden, played the acoustic guitar, and Hannah sang a vocal. It was just literally one pass. Rob turned on a click. How does that feel? That feels good. And they played it top to bottom, one pass, and that was that. And Rob goes, oh, I like it. It's sad to hear about your friend, but, not a bad little song. And the four of us were sitting in Rob's control room. We were all like practically touching knees. I'm not exaggerating that when I tell you that, see that piece of furniture right there? That's farther away than we all were from each other in that control room. So he laid it down. No big deal. The click was on the tape, everything. Anyway, that's what he ended up using as the basis for what he did on stage at the Road Rally. So all the other instruments, they did lay down a drum loop, which gives me great consternation as I'm trying to learn Pro Tools Logic, and I'm working with a loop. I am a guy who's so used to, I'm going to EQ and compress the kick drum. Now I'm going to work on the snare. Now I'm going to work on the toms. So now I've got a full drum kit on stereo pair, and I can't control it that much. You put reverb on the snare, you get it on the kick as well. So anyway, as I was listening to this thing the other night, I'm thinking, Hofner basses, sorry, Paul McCartney, they are the coolest looking basses and the least good sounding basses ever. And I think the bass was played by Nate on stage. One pass, I don't think we even did any punch-ins on it. And he frankly played it in a register that I might not have used. And then he laid down 2 or 3 electric guitar parts. I think he actually laid down a second acoustic guitar part. So as I'm listening to this the other night, Saturday night, I'm going, oh my gosh, Hannah's voice is so pitchy. It's almost like everything was tuned down, or she was tuned up or something. I don't know. It just sounds... Yep, J.P. Hoffner's, man. Just like there's no balls in that bass. It's all this honky, hollow mid-range stuff. Anyway, so I've got bad sounding drums, and at one point you can hear they did lay the drum track down before they came to the rally, and at some point it sounds like they've got different drums in there for like a measure or two. It's kind of weird. It's kind of obvious to me. Bad drums, bad bass. My daughter is really pitchy against the track, but if you listen to her with the original acoustic, she and that acoustic are in tune. Hannah and the acoustic and the rest of the track are not in tune. Now, that may be a function of the fact that they were doing all these overdubs in a ballroom with 1,000 people in one pass. And I don't even remember if they were wearing headphones or not. I don't think they were. I think they were working with floor monitors. So they're all my excuses. And because the audio path now is screwed up from my little experiment today. Yeah, I will blame Rob. Next time I ever talk to him, I will blame him. I will give him a sound lecture. It sounds like it's in a tunnel now, and you'll hear all these other things. Oh, I got to close my email. Where is that? There we go. That is closed. That is good. Okay, we're good to go. All right, so I won't tell him it was you, Marion. Give the mixing engineer a sound lecture. There you go. All right. So, and I was mixing on headphones the other night because I didn't want to disturb my wife while she was watching HGTV 12 feet away from me. She finally moved upstairs to the bedroom, and I could hear, I went off headphones, immediately heard the door go clunk. So put the headphones back on. So this is literally all faders up. I mean, I would start the song out with just the acoustic guitar doing chunks and the vocal, and then bring the drums in. It's just all parts in pretty much all the way through. No fade. No, maybe I'll do a fade here. The reverb, it's got a lot of hi-hat, and you can hear the reverb. And I'm say, yeah, you know the drill. Okay. But I was happy that I was able to, really the whole point in that whole exercise was seeing how the plugins sounded, seeing if I could make a Hofner sound good, which I couldn't. Other than the fact that Hannah sounds like she's in a tunnel right now, I was happy with what I got with the vocal and everything. I don't know how it sounds not on headphones, so it may sound like crap for anybody listening on speakers. There you go, my whole litany of excuses. Here we go.
It's the start of a day. It's the end of a fight. She fought off a war while she slept last night. She opened her eyes, forgot how to breathe. She found that she lost something that she couldn't see. This is the end, and she sees a light. She finally knows.
Yep, Hofner bass. Anyway, so there you go. All the excuses given. But I had a great time. Did you slowly ramp up the bass from start to finish? I don't think so, no. Would the mix pass the car audio test? I don't know. Am I going to bring my NS10s home? I don't know. My wife would kill me. Thank you for the plus ones. I don't know. I haven't listened anywhere except on the laptop speakers, which I've got to say, the new laptop speakers on the current MacBook Pro sound really good compared to the old one, but they're still not real speakers. So yeah, everything was mixed on this, and this is really all I've heard it on. Anyway, and like I said, that was just me messing around. I literally didn't do any moves, not a single move anywhere. Yeah, I would have not had the snare drum in it in the beginning. When I'm, times that I've done moves on it, and I hadn't learned, I still don't know how to use the automation. I have an automation question in a moment. I was going to leave out the whole first verse has no drums. It's just two acoustic guitars panned opposite, doing chunkas and the lead vocal. The bass comes in after a couple of bars. And then finally the snare drum anticipates and it comes in on the chorus. What type of headphones am I using? Well, for this, my trusty airplane headphones. Noise, start with some clapping. There you go. I mean, honestly, I would put in a whole new drum track, which eventually I'm just going to keep working on this song, as I learn more about Logic. I'll probably bring in some, drums from the drummer thing in Logic, or maybe, what else do I have? I've got Superior Drummer, which I haven't even messed with yet. No, they're not open back. They're closed back headphones. But, I'd like to put drums in there that I really like. And it might be that I put in a stick just keeping time on the beginning, or maybe just a hi-hat doing I don't know. The producer in me hears a lot of stuff that I would do differently, but then again, they were doing it on a stage in a grand ballroom with about 1,000 people. And I would suspect that ballroom, you'd think I would know the measurements of it by now, but it's got to be like 75 feet wide and 120 deep or something like that. Oh, that's good to know. Logic drummer can follow the bass. I should put a new bass part. I should have you put a bass part on a JP. Because, I actually like what he played. I don't like it in that octave. I like a couple places where he goes up in that octave. It brings something to it, but I just wish it had some balls on the bottom. I didn't do anything to the pitch of the voice. Collaboration corner. There you go. Now, Hannah doesn't write anymore. I wish she did. At one point, she currently lives in Israel, and at one point she had me send her guitar over there with my wife on one of my wife's trips over there. I can sidechain with Logic compressor to follow any instrument. So here's the big question. I haven't used automation. I used to use automation, on the SSL, but I mean, it was archaic compared to what you can do in Logic now. I wish that I had, and I will probably buy some sort of control surface that's got faders and mutes on it. I'm kind of infatuated with the Slate Raven, although they don't seem like that many people love them. But I love moving faders. I love hitting a mute. I do what Ken Calais does, which is I play the mix. So I would do a first pass where I'm doing all my moves and then go back and fine tune it. Let's see, it must have been 14. Yeah, she was like 14-ish when she wrote this song. 14, maybe 15. Oh, somebody earlier said, who was it? Skater Girl. Avril Lavigne, right? Somebody mentioned Avril Lavigne. Here's a funny story for you. So when Hannah was 12 or 13, just through word of mouth, we live about 10, 12 minutes away from Calabasas, where the office is. Calabasas High is a high school, a lot of kids from well-off families, let's say, a lot of actor kids and movie producer kids and big record company people kids go there. So one day Hannah got a phone call from Calabasas High School saying they were putting on like their almost end of the school year event, and would she like to play at it? It was an outdoor gig with a real stage and real sound system. And she said, "Why me?" And they said, "A bunch of kids have seen you on YouTube or something, and we would love to play." Yes, spoiled brats. Anyway, she said yes, and then she looked at me and she goes, I can't get up there just by myself with my acoustic guitar. I need another person. And our son-in-law, who had accompanied her on stuff around the house, wasn't available or something. So I reached out, and I can't remember his name now, for the life of me. But he was Avril Lavigne's boyfriend and co-writer on her first big record. Let's find out. Who was Avril Lavigne's boyfriend and co-writer?
Chad Kroeger.
No.
Here's a summary from Wikipedia.
Not that boyfriend.
Fellow Canadian musician Chad Kroeger, frontman of the band Nickelback.
Here, let's try it
The
this way.
relationship lost.
List of Avril Lavigne's boyfriends.
Here's a summary from Wikipedia. Relationships: Derek Whibley, Brody Jenner, and Chad Kroeger.
Let's try it this way. List of Avril Lavigne's co-writers.
According to Songfacts, Cindy Crawford, Naomi Campbell, Linda Evangelista,
I don't-
Lucy Turlington, and Tatiana Petite lip-synced George Michael's lyrics in his Freedom 90 video.
All right, if anybody wants to help me out with this. Yeah, I've been looking at the Fader port. I can't remember the guy's name. I've actually had him on panels at the Road Rally. Who co-wrote Avril Lavigne's first album?
Cliff McNeese. Here's a summary from Wikipedia. Lavigne worked further with The Matrix and also with singer-songwriter Cliff McNeese.
Magnies. Let's see. Wow, she was married to Chad Kroeger? Who knew? Evan Taubenfeld. Okay. So there are two Taubenfeld brothers. And I can't remember. Evan is the one that worked with Avril Lavigne, okay? I know Butch Walker. I love Butch Walker. He and I had a really fun night in Kauai many, many years ago together. And that didn't sound exactly right. We were just hanging out, okay? Butch is a piece of work in the best possible way, man. He is something. That guy was born to do what he does. Anyway, so Evan Taubenfeld and his brother Drew. So a friend of mine who plays with a lot of big bands couldn't do the gig either, and he said, "Let me hook you up with my friend Drew Taubenfeld." I had no idea who the guy was, but he's a professional sideman. So he says, "Yeah, bring her over. I'll do the gig." I think he charges, I don't know, $300 or something to do a couple of rehearsals and do the gig, which was very reasonable for who he turned out to be. He played with a lot of really big people. So we go over, and he said, I felt comfortable leaving Hannah with him. I mean, she was probably 14 or 15 at the time. And clearly I could hear somebody else was in the house. So I figured, all right, no big deal. And then I come back 2 hours later, and the rehearsal went really well. I think they rehearsed 4 songs. And I was checking out, he had a Gibson acoustic guitar that I fell in love with. I thought about knocking him unconscious, grabbing it and running. It was just gorgeous. One of those dark ones, the dark sunburst with the white trim around the outer edge, but it sounded great. Anyway, so as he's walking us out and we're making plans for the next rehearsal, this young guy, youngish looking compared to me, anybody is, comes down the stairs or up the stairs from another level. He's got tattoos all over, and he's got like the rocker, leather studded bracelets and piercings and stuff, if I remember correctly. And he walks up to Hannah and he goes, who wrote those songs? And she said, I did, but Hannah never gets nervous. Nothing makes that kid nervous. I could see she was a little nervous. And he said, wow, you're a really good writer. And who sang on the recordings I heard? She goes, I did. He goes, wow, you've got a great voice. I'd love to hear more of your stuff. So we walk outside and her knees buckled. Literally, she almost fell on the ground. She goes, Dad, do you know who that is? And I said, I have no idea, Hannah. And she goes, that's Evan Taubenfeld. He co-wrote a lot of what's-her-name's hits. And I said, I have no idea. I like some of Avril's stuff, but I can't say that I've ever listened to a full record of her stuff. I've listened to references that we use for Taxi. And she goes, yeah, that's him. And then he called me about a week after his brother and Hannah did the gig. And he said, man, I've been checking out your company. Let's hang out. So we did. We went to dinner one night somewhere in Studio City. I think another day maybe we met for a lunch. I had him on a panel at the Road Rally. Why am I telling you all this? I don't know. Anyway, Hannah was just so blown away that the guy who co-wrote and produced, I think, some of the early Avril Lavigne hits, she was blown away. But there was more to it than that. I can't remember what it was now. Why the hell was I telling you that? I don't know. But turns out he's a super nice guy, as is his brother Drew. The two of them, I think they're Midwestern guys from like Ohio or something. Just very, very, very normal, nice guys. It's a Hannah story, that's why. Oh, yeah. Anyway, so that's that. My question is regarding automation. When using Logic Automation, do I have to go in and take those stupid little lines? I know how to do that, where you take the line and make a point and drop it down and then write it and blah, blah, blah. Is there an automation mode? I should watch a video or actually read a manual or something. Is there an automation? But I've got an automation mode where I can mute things and do fader moves. Just hit like automation start and run through the song and it will remember my moves. So how do I do that, Orasso? I did figure out how to turn on the automation, and I got the little, the crazy little lines, but I've used those doing some automation stuff for audio post, and it's a pain in the butt. It's probably called latch mode. Darren Moss, I know less than you. I don't think that's possible, Darren. Use the latch. Where do I find the latch on the menu? I don't have a MIDI controller yet. Auto write, auto read mode. Use touch or latch on the tool you're using. Read directions. Latch mode. Okay. Wow, look at this. I've got like a team of coaches, 50 coaches. But I wouldn't be in recording mode. I'd be in mix mode. On the channel strip, it says read. Okay. Change that to latch. Ah, okay. Yeah, I don't want to draw in the waves. That's for computer people. Where it says read, go down, open it. Gotcha. All right, cool. Well, I am not going to do this until I finish writing the questions. As a matter of fact, while I've got you here, Andre, let me get out my schedule. How are you looking tomorrow afternoon? You're in the same time zone I am. Today's Tuesday, right? How are you looking for 4 o'clock tomorrow afternoon? Our regular time for our regular date. If I know I've the green button, I'm going to have to go back and read this. Do not use write mode. Okay. Andre's looking good any day, any time, except quarantini happy hour time. Okay, so 4 o'clock tomorrow. If I get done with the questions earlier, I may move us up an hour or two, but I'll keep you posted. I'll either email you or call you. This way, I know that I've got to get those questions done because the rest of the newsletter is done. And our interview is the only thing remaining to be done. An automated Docker compressor. I mean, I know what those things do. I've certainly used them a lot. But mostly in audio post, honestly. Well, a Docker anyway. We used to use them in audio post. That's what sidechaining was for. If the background music... for instance, a 60-second radio spot or a 30-second radio spot would have music, and when the voiceover did his thing in the middle, they called that the donut. The music would drop down so that you could hear the voice better. Anyway, I had such a good time. So far, I've only gotten the Waves LA3, the Abbey Road plates, and the J37 Abbey Road tape machine, which it's really hard to hear that thing doing anything. I've got to experiment more with that. People say that it's kind of a cumulative thing, that if you put it on enough tracks, it will give it that tape sound, or you could put it across the mix bus. That remains to be seen. Yep, voiceover is definitely a good place to sidechain. Although, automation on the SSL was certainly good enough that you didn't need to do that. The PreSonus Fader Port 16, I've been looking at that. If I know if I do what I'm about to say that you guys will never see me or hear from me again. My wife just got a little taste Saturday night. She didn't know me in my studio years. She's only been in a control room with me one time, and that was when Shirelli called me one night and said, hey, can you come down to the studio? I can't make a mix happen. Just come down and shove up the faders. I need fresh ears on this. So my wife went with me. 20 minutes later, she was like bored out of her brain. I was looking at the Behringer Wing. The audio guys at the Road Rally use the Behringer X32. They love it. I've messed around a little bit with it late at night when you guys are all in the bar. I've tiptoed through the back alleys of the hotel down to the ballroom and checked out the X32. Supposedly the Behringer Wing, which is the newer, better, bigger version, is supposed to be amazing. They say, and people love the way the X32 sounds. They say the Wing sounds even better. Yeah, and I saw a barely used one. Somebody got, apparently when you get it, the routing is not set up. You've got to figure out the routing and pre-program in all the routing to your, holy crap. It literally sounded like my house was going to blow off the foundation then. Oh yeah, I'm very impressed with Logic. Blown away with it, Darren. And I've barely, I've used 5% of it, if that so far. Anyway, someday I will build a control room. Nothing, I mean, not building, like walls within walls. I don't believe that you really need to do that, but I will put together a proper studio. I just can't do it here on the kitchen table without my wife, like, wanting to kill me. But, yeah, looking at the wing, it's like, okay, that does a lot of cool stuff. Let's see, bringing tracks together into the mix is like getting to be a chef. Absolutely. I love to cook. I actually cook like 5 or 6 nights a week here at Chez Lascaux. I love to cook. And I don't use recipes. It's just like I open up the fridge. What do we have? Let's put it together. And I've always equated cooking with mixing, or engineering, or producing for that matter. Like the production phase, the pre-production is like for tonight, for instance. Last night I made garlic, lime, and soy boneless chicken thighs on the grill. And we had some leftover hamburger buns from a couple nights before. So we made, barbecued boneless chicken thighs on buns last night. Woohoo! With a sweet potato. That was dinner. But we had a few of the thighs left over. So I said to my wife, well, I've got a couple of Southwestern flavored sausages. So tonight we're having fried rice, which will have Southwest flavored sausage mixed in with the Asian flavored chicken thighs. Should be interesting. The Mackie MCU. I've got to say, I have always liked Mackie products, so that's another one I'll check out. There's a gorgeous SSL product I saw for $47,000. Not going to be buying that, but I guarantee you, if I get the wing, or frankly, if I get anything, I wish I could get 32 faders. Nothing but 32 faders and mute buttons. That's the way I mix. I'm like, bap, bap, and that's how I would do it. Is just go top to bottom, and then go back and go, oh, I need more vocal in the bridge. Yep, that works. That guitar doing the chunkas on the right could be compressed a little more and a little brighter just so we can hear it better without adding extra energy to the right side of the track. So there you go. I want the new Neve for $177K. Don't we all? Anyway. Ooh, homemade chili in the crock pot. That sounds really good. SSL does, they got a thing, I can't remember the name of it now, but I bought a couple of SSLs back in the 80s for the console, or for the studio I was running in New York. And I became good friends with the CEO of SSL, a guy named Piers Plaskett, who is no longer, he just left there like a year ago. I could have gotten myself a really good deal, like an industry insider price on that SSL thing. But I would love just to have something about the size of a keyboard with 32 faders on it that just has automated faders and mute buttons. I'm fine with doing my EQ on the screen. I'm fine with doing my pan, although, pan pots wouldn't be terrible, but almost everything I do is left, center, right anyway, so it's not like I'm doing a bunch of crazy stuff. But I just am so in love with the fact that the other night, like when I was working on Hannah's vocal, I thought, okay, what would I do to this if I were in a real studio? Well, I would probably put it through a Neve 1073, so I pulled up the Logic equivalent of that and added a little bit of top to it, rolled off some extreme bottom that I just didn't need, ran it through an LA3, which was my go-to compressor that I love. It's funny, I got laughed at all the time by my friends in the industry, my other engineer, producer buddies. It's like, why do you use that thing? It was so simple, but it sounded so good. And everybody preferred 1176s, which are fine for certain applications, but for a utilitarian, plug it in on a guitar, plug it in on a vocal, plug it in on an acoustic guitar, plug it in. I actually use it sometimes on a snare. It sounded great. I love that thing. Anyway, so I downloaded one of those a few days ago from Waves and used that thing, which sounds remarkably like the real deal, and put that on the vocal. And then I tried using the Abbey Road plate, but I just wasn't getting out of it what I wanted. It's not a bad sounding plate. It just didn't sound right on the voice. So I said, well, I'll try this chromaverb thing, which I don't even know anything about. I'm guessing it's an algorithmic reverb that they make for specifically for Logic. And I tried all the different sounds. I don't remember which one I finally landed on, but I went to my standard like 1.5 second decay on it. And it just sounded a little too long. It sounded like an old guy's reverb. That's the other thing, is I'm trying to make stuff not sound like I would have made it sound in the 70s or 80s. I want it to sound cooler, more modern, because I'm always challenging you guys to up your game in that regard. But playing around with chromaverb, I shortened it down to like 3/4 of a second. Brightened it up a little bit, and that's why I suffer the problem with the hi-hat splashing off one side of that reverb. At some point, the hi-hat's getting pretty smashed, and because it's mixed in with the whole drum kit and the loop, it's making the reverb a little crazy. But I've got to say, that setting on chromaverb, I went, wow, that's really good sound of reverb. I would make records with that. Right, it does sound like a car polish. I'm not using an interface yet. I don't even own an interface yet. I actually owned one, and Hannah took it to Israel with her, and she's never used it. The hell did I get? They gave it to me. It was a freebie from, what's the company Bob Clearmountain and his wife own? Who makes the Apollo? This thing, whatever it was the baby version of the Apollo that's about the size of a cell phone. It had a great sounding microphone in it that Bob Clearmountain had actually designed. Oh, who's trying to get a hold of me? Oh, no. Yeah, I know. Everybody loves the UA stuff. My son-in-law used to be a computer programmer at Universal Audio. I could have gotten this stuff at his employee discount, which was substantial. But did I take advantage of that? No. I'd be dumb. Solid state logic nucleus 2 dark DAW controller. I saw that earlier. There was a bigger one that was $37,000, right? That was like a full-on thingy. Take the knife sharpener away from Deb. No kidding. When do you use compression? I use it all the time. Compression is to keep things from basically spiking your meters, okay? It makes them lay in the mix better. It creates, under certain scenarios, a thing called apparent loudness, where something doesn't have to be technically louder than other things in the mix, but because you've squashed down the audio spikes, where there's a lot of energy that would drive your meters crazy and drive your mix bus crazy, you throw it on those instruments so that it just kind of levels out the sound. You know, I'll when we close out the show, maybe I'll do it now. I'll play you the thing one more time. Listen to Hannah's vocal. I used quite a bit of LA3 on her vocal and was really happy with it. It's kind of hard to tell because I've got this audio cavern thing going on right now. But who makes the Apollo? Is that Universal? No. Is it? Who is Bob Clearmountain's wife, Betty?
According to Wikipedia, he has also won an Emmy and he has won 7 Tech Awards.
Apogee.
Best recording-
Okay, so I had an Apogee. I can't remember what it was called, but it had a built-in microphone that Clear Mountain himself had tuned. The microphone sounded great. Seriously, it sounded like $1,000 large capsule condenser. Yeah, compresses squish in a good way if you know how to use one. Anyway, that thing sounded great. You could plug instruments into it. You could plug microphones into it. You could use the built-in microphone. It had one knob on it. It was pretty easy to use. It sounded great. But Hannah wanted to do some recording. And so that's when I sent her that thing. I think I sent her the guitar and the interface. What's the other one? What's the red one? I've had so many people tell me to buy that one. Focusrite. Has anybody used the Focusrite? Yes. The LA3 is solid state. I think it uses an optical sensor. The LA2 is tube. And I've had control rooms. The last control room that I worked in for any length of time had the SSL, and I had 2 real LA2s, genuine ones, and several Pultecs in there. And yeah, the LA2, I had an LA2 in my control room in Florida as well. We had them at Criteria. I like them. I like them a lot. They're just not as versatile as the LA3, in my opinion. Yeah, so what about the Scarlett 212? They're cheap as snot, and everybody loves them. I've never heard anything but praise for those. Yeah, isn't the Focusrite like a fraction of the cost of the UA? Ooh, the famous Air circuit. I love Air. Air is good. The version 3, right? The most recent ones for the 212s are also. Yeah, Rupert Neve is somebody I've always wanted to meet. I know so many people in the pro audio world, just had the good fortune to meet many, not just engineers and producer types, but actual like equipment designers and stuff. But I never met Rupert Neve. How many line ins do I want? I mean, for now, 2 would be fine. I mean, at some point, someday, I would love. There's actually a house behind us that looks to be like 200 feet away from me right now. It's like down behind us and below us. And at one point, Deb and I were thinking about buying the house just as an investment, and turning it into a rental. And then someday, my fantasy was someday when I retire, like that day will ever come. I thought about taking, and Deb actually said okay to this. They have a pool. We don't have a pool. So we talked about putting a water slide down the hill into the pool, and taking the 3 bedrooms in the house and making them guest rooms, and then taking the dining room and the living room and making them a control room and a studio. My wife would be so happy she would never have to see me or talk to me. All right. I should play this again because we're running out of time, although we could go a couple minutes long today because I don't have. Oh, no, I do have some. I have to write Andre's questions tonight. Rupert Neve was living in Wimberley, Texas. Wow. Yeah, so if I had an actual room where I could do a full band of people, I'd need bass, kick, snare, hi-hat, drums left, drums right, high, mid, floor. I would like 24 inputs. All right. Let's listen one more time, and then we can spend an extra 5 minutes laughing at some. Listen carefully. You'll hear that the reverb tends to pull to the right a little bit. You can hear the hi-hat just splashing around. I don't know what else to tell you. Anyway, here we go.
It's the start of a day. It's the end of a fight. She fought off a war while she slept last night. She opened her eyes, forgot how to breathe. She found that she lost something that she couldn't see. This is the end, and she sees a light. She finally knows what it feels like to be alright. This is the very first time she doesn't need to cry, and she can't explain why. This is suicide, not stuck between two ways. She's in a better place. No need to choose a side. This is suicide. She stares at the past. She knows it's too late. She don't want to hear the sorries that they have to say. The trigger's been pulled. She's jumped off the edge. There are voices in her head. She sees the signs. It's the beginning of her own happy ending. This is the very first time she doesn't need
Anyway, you get the idea. Yeah, the bottom is a little lacking, but like I said, I was more about just getting familiar with stuff and not really paying attention to, is this a finished record? Because I was so frustrated by the fact that I couldn't do all these live moves. I was not going to sit there. At one point, I tried to use a mouse, and I've also got an outboard trackpad that I use in my everyday work. So I tried doing some muting stuff, but then it's like, how do I remember that? I didn't know about the latch function and automation. Thank you guys for the compliments to Hannah. Yeah, the button ending. Actually, she created, I don't have any way to fast forward up to the end, but Hannah actually wrote the song. So at the end, it ends mid-sentence. Remember the book, God, what was the guy's name? FutureHit.DNA. And she read that endings that surprise you, the end where they're not supposed to. So she cut it off. So the whole song, if I were mixing it for real, I would mute everything on "this is," and there's nothing. It just goes away. And she said, emotionally, it leaves you with that empty feeling and leaves you wondering about the future. And so the other night I was playing with that, just muting everything. And all you heard was just the reverb on her voice when she said, "this is." It's kind of cool. Needs cowbell. Yep. I tried listening. I worked for about a half an hour on the headphones that the screeners use. And they're like B plus, A minus headphones. So I wanted to see what the... I can't believe I did a rough mix using noise-canceling headphones. Seems antithetical somehow. Anyway, that's that. I won't have any updated mixes for you tomorrow because I will be writing Andre's questions tonight, and I know that if I turn on Logic, that'll be that. But you know how much HGTV I've been able to miss because of Logic, so that's my new excuse. Anyway, thanks for hanging out. Thanks for listening. See you guys tomorrow for another super duper exciting episode of Quarantini Happy Hour. Drinks are on me. Good night, you guys. Oops, wrong music. There we go. I mean Thursday, yes, Thursday. Go Keith LeBrant.